Hello friends, welcome back to part 2. I hope you enjoyed your lesson looking at the back of the book to see how photographs and illustrations can help you learn more about what you're reading. So now it is time to start gathering evidence so we can write our response to focusing question task 2. Today you will be practicing it orally, and tomorrow you will write your informative paragraph. Miss Spears will review parts of the text that will help you gather this evidence while filling out an evidence organizer. I have inserted a picture of the evidence organizer on the next slide, as well as the sentence frame for the topic statement and the conclusion that you will learn about in part 3. You can use this when you record your Flipgrid to help you practice. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. All right, let's switch over to this slide. So this is the slide that you can use after you review your part 2 video, take your brain break, and then review your part 3 lesson with myself and Miss Spears. You will use this slide to help you whenever you are ready to practice orally or out loud on your Flipgrid video what you plan to write tomorrow when you write your final response to focusing question task 2. All right, so now that we've seen that, let me show you the next slide really quick. This is where you will record, you'll click here to record your response to your focusing question task 2. All right, friends, let's get back to let's see here. I'm going to put myself back in the right spot just for fun. So let's get back to Miss Spears and going through the text to find some of that evidence.
Okay, take a look at your screen and look at Assessment 12A, Focusing Question Task 2. Here are the instructions for the task. Write an informative paragraph to answer the focusing question, how did Jane Goodall make discoveries about animals? Checklist for success. Be sure to include all of the following in your response. A topic statement that tells about Jane's discoveries, 2 or more details that support how she made the discoveries, a conclusion and complete sentences that begin with a capital letter and end with a punctuation mark. Before you write your paragraphs, you are going to gather evidence so that you have something to write about. As we reread sections of the text, we're going to be collecting evidence for how Jane made discoveries about animals. We'll listen for what Jane discovered about animals and how she discovered the information. When we're done reading the sections, we'll add the evidence to our evidence organizer that you see on the screen. Here's an excerpt from pages 2 to 4. It's from the Fluency handout, so you can follow along with me as I read. Me, Jane. Patrick McDonald. And Jane loved to be outside. She watched birds making their nests, spiders spinning their webs, and squirrels chasing one another up and down trees. What did Jane discover about animals in this section? Share with your learning partner. I wonder, did you say that Jane learned how birds make nests and spiders spin webs? What about how squirrels chase each other? I'm sure you did. Now I wonder, how did Jane discover this about animals? Share with your learning partner. How did Jane discover this about animals? I'm sure you said this too. Jane discovered this information by watching or observing. Now let's read a few more sections. Listen carefully as I read this excerpt from page 6. Jane learned all that she could about the animals and plants she studied in her backyard and read about in books. Think, what did Jane discover about animals on this page? Share with your learning partner. Yes, I'm sure you said it. Jane learned about plants and animals in her backyard. Now think, how did Jane discover this? How did Jane discover this? Just say it aloud. How did Jane discover this? I'm sure you said this as well. She studied and read books. Now, listen as I continue to read some more excerpts from pages 10 through 14. She and Jubilee snuck into Grandma Nut's chicken coop, hid behind some straw, stayed very still, and observed the miracle. Now, what did she discover? Share with your learning partner. Yes, she discovered that chickens lay eggs. How did she discover this? How did she discover this? Tell your learning partner. I'm sure you guessed it. She sat still and observed. Now, let's add the evidence we just heard to the evidence organizer. Okay, take a look at the evidence organizer. Jane discovered birds make nests, spiders spin webs, and squirrels chase each other. And she learned this by watching. Let's look at the evidence we collected from pages 6 and 7. Jane discovered more about plants and animals. And how she discovered this was by studying and reading books. Okay, let's look at the last one. From pages 10 through 14, Jane discovered that chickens lay eggs, and she discovered this by observing. Pause the video for a quick